Yeah, the behind-the-scenes stuff in these books, that's what's so fascinating. And the conversations that are happening behind the scenes between these men and the women, because you're right, they all are influenced by the women. It's very interesting because they all have so much power, but the women have so much power over them.
Yeah, women have power over me. Women sense my power, though, too.
Well, you'll remind us if we forget.
Just imagine me if I had hair.
Let's talk a little bit about your writing process. Because you talk about the outlines, you don't have a computer, so you're pen to paper. You work in outline, and describe a little bit really how you put a book together.
For example, my most recent novel, Bloods Are Over, 1968 to 1972, America, 675-page hardcover book. Hired a researcher, friend of my second ex-wives. She compiles fact sheets and chronologies so that I won't write myself into error. I came with themes. I came with historical events. I needed the specifics filled in. This woman, Kateri Butler, went to the Dominican Republic for me because I traveled poorly. She came up with bare bones fact sheets, some maps, some snapshots. I breathed a sigh of relief because not a hell of a lot was going on during Richard Nixon's first term in the DR, and this gave me latitude to fictionalize. I would not have wanted big sheets of factual paper on it. Armored car heist, political chicanery. A buddy of mine, a real-life private eye, older than I am, named Don Crutchfield. My past as a voyeur, window peeper, burglar in Hancock Park, the ritzy neighborhood adjoining the poor neighborhood where I grew up. A potpourri of established historical fact, autobiography, research, imagination. 200 pages of shorthand notes, a 400-page outline. Had it typed up. It's there on my desk. I look over at it. Oh, chapter 1, Wayne Tedrow's viewpoint. Turn the page when I finished writing it in the text. Chapter 2, Dwight Holly. Chapter 3, Don Crutchfield, all the way through the end. Again, the outline, factually, thematically, plot and character and violent, allows me to live in the individual scenes, improvise and extemporize at will, densify at will, complete roadmap. Allows me to think the book through at warp speed. Write it all down, shorthand notes, fully explicated in the outline text, write the book.
How much do you write in a day?
8, 10, 12 handwritten pages.
We talked backstage about something I found really interesting that you talk about. You're the only writer I know who doesn't read.
No,
You've pretty much given up.
gave up on a long time ago.
I find that so interesting. And we talked back there because, just talk about the reasons you don't read.
Culture vexes me. Narrative that I don't create vexes me. Stimulation and kineticism vex me. So I ignore the world. I was in the hotel several hours ago and I heard some people talking. It was astonishing to me. They said a black guy was elected president of the United States.
Yeah. You told us that way. But that, I just find it so interesting because I think because there's so much going on in your head, and this is why you don't read. Because you read voraciously when you were younger. You read like every kind of crime fiction.
I read crime books, I read historical fiction, I read historical nonfiction and political biography.
Yeah, and then you sort of stopped, and now you cut yourself off from all of that. But then you told me who your big influences, where you learned all your writing craft.
I learned more from rigorously listening to classical music than I ever did from reading books.
And Beethoven.
Beethoven.
Talk about that. How classical music and Beethoven taught you more about writing craft?
Beethoven, the greatest genius ever spawned by civilization, the greatest musician of all time. When you know Beethoven, when you've heard it in your bones and your soul, you know it. Classical music form, big expository, first movement, slow, elegiac, second movement, climactic, third, and/or fourth moments. It's called sonata form. Leitmotif, polyphony, thunderous sonority, whispered, soft passages. The emotion of it, the narrative that one has to bring to the appreciation of it, course through me and fill me with a great sense of order. The improvisations, the variations inherent in the form are undercurrents of characterization, dialogue passages juxtaposed against overview narrative or direct narrative in individual scenes. This is where I've learned. I also took in a great deal of plot from the crime books I read as a young man.
I don't think you could get a better MFA course in creative writing than those two things.
I want to get a righteous doctorate from an Ivy League college that has a cool mascot. Yale, the Bulldogs, Princeton, the Tiger.
I think this would be a good time to open this up to questions from the audience.